Now it's time for today's perspective, and the world is being warned this week that the summer for many of us could be by far the hottest in years. The actual warning that there's an 80% chance of the El Nino phenomenon developing between June and August, that increasing the risk then of extreme weather events, according to the World Meteorological Organization. The phenomenon fueled by unusually warm ocean waters in the tropical Pacific. It comes as well as, for example, France has just experienced as well its hottest spring on record after an exceptionally early heat wave at the end of last month that broke highs here as well as in the UK. Well, we're going to talk now to climate researcher at the University of Oxford, Dr. Chloe Brimicombe, who joins us from there. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme. Explain to us first a little more then about what exactly this warning is.
So the warning from the World Meteorological Organization this week is that we have 90% chance of developing El Nino, which is an atmospheric ocean interaction in the Pacific. When we've previously seen El Nino occur, this causes there to be a rise in baseline temperatures globally. And as we know, the baseline temperatures are already increasing with climate change. So over the last 3 years, we've had some of the hottest years on record. And on average, these have exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial, so the 1900s level of warming, as a result of climate change. And with El Nino, we expect to see there to be an increase in this already warming pattern. And this causes there to be a rise in extreme weather patterns around the world, with some regions experiencing severe drought that can lead to famine and food insecurity, and some regions experiencing extreme rainfall, which causes flooding and displacement of local populations.
Let's show a quick graphic now. I mean, it shows those temperatures that you were talking about there in the Pacific. I mean, you can see when this graphic comes up just, how that key monitoring region in the centre there, it blew at the beginning, but obviously turning redder and redder and redder. And it's that really, isn't it, that shows the problems?
Yes. So what happened was there was a deeper area of warm water, and over time this has now risen to the surface. There's two types of ways that we can forecast El Nino, and this is the one that is used by the World Meteorological Organization. So there was warnings previously that we could be experiencing El Nino by the other mechanism, but now it's more likely and this to occur over June to August. So in regions that border this specific, they're more likely to see more immediate effects on their extreme weather. So this could be that it's more dry, for example, in Australia, and then you could also see more increased rainfall in East Africa. But globally, we see this slowly dissipate over time, and it affects weather patterns more broadly in, for example, North America. In Europe and the UK, it's less clear, but it definitely affects rainfall patterns in the Mediterranean. So it's thought that it becomes perhaps drier in the Mediterranean region as a result of El Nino, which is thousands of miles away, right? It's like the other side of the planet. So it is quite crazy to think that something so far away could affect us here in Europe. However, we know that our weather is interlinked, and this is known as teleconnections. So it is likely that you could have something that happens the other side of the world, and over time it goes through the Earth system and affects weather somewhere else, which is just actually quite incredible to think about the interlinkages and the way that weather works.
Yeah, you talk about interlinkages there, and it's credible as well to think about the fact that what happens underwater affects what happens above the water as well, or is it more that the two kind of just go hand in hand, would you say?
Yes, so this is also the case with more local patterns. So, for example, if we were to have a marine heat wave around Europe, there's now emerging evidence to suggest that this actually affects how we have land heat waves. But this atmospheric ocean interaction is quite remarkable because it's been occurring naturally for millennia. So it started developing quite a number of years ago, and we don't really understand why necessarily. So it's cyclical, so it occurs every 3 to 7 years, and we have like El Nino, but we also have the sort of sister of it, La Nina, which causes the opposite effect. It causes cooling. So it's really quite interesting to think that that sort of natural process can be occurring, and the interaction of that with our anthropogenic caused climate change, because really there isn't anything we can do about this baseline warming from El Nino, but we do know that if we reduce anthropogenic warming, you know, it will reduce the intensity of extreme weather as a result of that.
Yeah, you talk about the intensity of extreme weather. I mean, one warning as well is that once this is over, assuming it happens in the first place, then when we head into winter, we could then experience a much colder winter.
Yes, so it's possible that we will experience a colder winter. What tends to happen with El Nino is you can see colder winter, and then in the summer following it will be hotter. So we have seen that in a number of cases. So between 2013 and 2015, we saw that really occur, and that's kind of the last time that like a really intense one happened. But this one is kind of being warned that it could be the most intense one on record, and so some people are even calling it Godzilla El Nino, which I think is a bit alarmist because it suggests that the end of civilization, which is not going to happen, but it is good to be aware of how much it intensifies extreme weather.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, with all these reports, I mean, even the report when it comes out, a lot of warnings about this is what we think is probably likely to happen, but there's no way of proving it. You've always got those climate skeptics as well who will seize on that, or if this doesn't then happen, they'll go, it was all a load of rubbish.
I think, yeah, that is a very big risk with this. I think that the World Meteorological Organization wouldn't put the messaging out if they weren't like really convinced that this was going to occur. And the reason to put this out now is that the hope is that it can help prepare nations that where we know that these patterns happen to prepare for that. And the more warning that you give them, the better that can be. One good thing about El Nino, if there is anything, is that it actually helps us to predict weather. So in some cases, we can predict extreme weather with a longer lead time because of how it changes and interlinks with different parts of the world's weather system. So that's really encouraging. So they wouldn't have said it if they weren't convinced. But I personally have been a bit concerned about warning fatigue. So have we actually said this a little bit too soon? And when it actually starts occurring, and then throughout that, because we don't know how long this will last, will we actually prevent people from feeling confident that they can act and put in place mitigations for this extreme weather, which is really important, just because we started warning about it slightly too soon, because that does actually occur. And that's how we put in place early warning systems, like last week in the UK and France for the heat wave. It's very well designed how we communicate that. So that is something that will be interesting to see, and a lesson that we can learn about when would be the right time to start warning about an event like this.
We shall follow it over the coming weeks. Thanks very much for being with us on the programme today. Climate researcher at the University of Oxford there, Dr. Chloe Brimicombe. Thanks very much for being with us.